Like, and comparing with everybody else, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But it's been weird. I think it's been like 2 months for us since our emergency lockdown.
Yeah.
You know.
Was it sort of like just like one day they turned around and they were like, "You guys have just all got to like lock down now, more or less"?
Yeah. So I think around March, like the day before we went on like emergency lockdown, there was kind of like a press conference, and they were like, there's a press conference where like, yeah, I think we're gonna have to go on lockdown, and then like at midnight everything was shut down, and it hasn't been like the same since.
Not much warning.
Yeah, it was like it was like a 24-hour change of like everything.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's quick. It happened so quick. All of it. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Cause yeah, me and my friends were actually at like this restaurant, and I think one of the health people called the restaurant, and they were like, "You actually have to start shutting it down and like getting people out," and like that was like the turnaround of that evening. It was intense.
Jeez. Yeah, that's mental, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, get him on Josh.
Oh, shit. It's sick in your bed.
And insanity.
Cheers for this, though, man. Yeah, this is cool. This is weird, but cool.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Yeah, it's cool too, because before the quarantine started and all this stuff, the last trip I took actually was in London.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is like a good segue, I guess. Is everyone in now, I guess? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like a good like segue. Yeah, the last trip I took was London, and I've written for like Clash and the 4 and 5 and things like that. But so I was thinking about moving to London to like do more work there, because most of my work has pertained to like UK publications, because like Toronto there's not a lot. So then when I went there back in September, a lot of people told me to build my own platform for Toronto. So that kind of brings me to Studio One and why I decided to build it. I've interviewed like international artists like yourselves, artists across Canada, and like local artists in Toronto. So that kind of brings me to today to get you guys on. It's amazing to get you on. So before we begin, can you guys individually introduce yourselves?
Yeah, let Josh start. Yeah.
So I'm Josh, singing the band.
I'm Tom. I play bass.
Laz, I play the drums.
I'm George, I play synths.
Yeah, and I'm Conor, I play guitar.
Alright, cool. So first question, it's an easy one. How did you guys all, come together, and how did you guys individually foray into music? Like, what's your first kind of segue into that? Even I guess before you guys all came together, that as well.
I mean, I think we all met through just living in Aylesbury, where we're from. It's like about an hour outside of London. Just through school, friends of friends, family. Sort of Aylesbury's quite a small town. Everyone sort of knows everyone, I guess, pretty much, or knows of everyone. So a few of us were in a band before. Like me and Conor were in a band, and then the lead singer of that band at the time knew Leslie's sister. So then we got Les to come along, started playing drums. Then we formed this band. Conor knew Tom, and Les knew George. So it happened quite naturally, really, just all through knowing of each other.
We'd all played in like different bands locally and stuff, just from like being teenagers and stuff like that. So sort of like just it's very small scene, sort of musicians in the small town we're from. So naturally, if there's a couple bands about, we're going to sort of collaborate at some point. I feel like it was always going to work out that way.
Yeah. More or less preordained, I suppose, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Going to happen.
And I think touching on like the second part of that question, I mean, for me personally, my uncle and whole family are into music. My uncle's a musician. He bought me like a guitar, and I was like 12 or 13, so I just started playing guitar. I don't know about these guys.
Yeah, I think it's just my family as well. My family were into music, and kind of I grew up either like playing music in church or just doing it because my parents said to do it. It was kind of like a way to kind of keep me out of trouble, I think, for them. But there was no trouble to get into, so it was kind of weird anyway. But yeah, it was just kind of through the house, through the family. Sister plays music, parents play music, so yeah, kind of natural, I think. It's not nothing too serious. Though. It wasn't like too serious. It was just kind of loosely play music sort of vibe.
All kind of like come out of it. Sort of like it sort of began in different ways, I suppose. Like me myself, I've always had like an interest in music, I suppose, but it was never something that was ever, I never had an aptitude for it. I was always given like maracas or something in music class and told not to do it at GCSE, which I don't know what that equates to, like overseas, but yeah. And I think it's one day, me and Connor would hang around a lot. Connor was playing guitar for a long time, so I thought like, kind of want to have a crack at that, and then ended up playing bass, which is I think probably the story for quite a lot of bassists. I think is sort of like picking up because it's out of necessity more than the compulsion, but it grew like.
Oh, the maracas didn't work out, so
no. Still can't.
And I know there's like all these movies that have bands in it where they kind of have this like moment where they realize it's clicking, or you've made a song that sounds like cohesive enough where like we are a band. Do you guys have a moment, or maybe a show, or maybe an early song you guys have made where you're like, this is Birthday Card? Like have you guys felt that?
I think there's tons of those moments that kind of like add up to whatever it is now, but I mean, the guys will say as well, like there's been quite a few of those kind of like moments over the years where it's just kind of like, oh my god, this is cool, let's do this, and then let's do this is cool, but it changes. Like the guys will say, like
for me, the one that sticks out for me is that there was one rehearsal that we wrote our first single, Shy Away, and I think that was the first moment where like just writing together on the day it all just sort of like clicked, and it really did sort of set up what the band has become now, because it was something else before it, but since after that rehearsal and that one jam, it completely changed the course of, and that song went on just to sort of became the benchmark really for everything we wrote afterwards. So.
I was going to say the exact same moment.
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
Yeah.
I think once you find that, like, you have that moment as well, like, it's something you constantly chase.
Literally,
I think if I don't know, like, I feel like if we didn't have that, desire to want to get that feeling again, like, like George said, when we wrote Shy Away together in that room, although it necessarily doesn't always come in that, medium, I think you're sort of always chasing it. And that's pretty much it for us after that.
And for somebody like me, like from Toronto, from Canada, can you guys tell me what and the experiences, I guess, is like performing in England and performing at these venues, and I guess going through like a circuit, building a fan base over there? What's it like for you guys?
I think it'd be probably every band, depending on where you're from, is going to have a different experience. I mean, for us, like I said, we're from a fairly small town that hasn't really got much of a scene, so to speak. So you've got to try and sort of create it yourselves. And that's how we've sort of met with, like George said, with a few bands that are around. We've sort of all managed to come together. Then in terms of like gigging and touring, I mean, there's like one pub venue in the town we're from, but for a while, a few of us lived in Brighton, so there's loads and loads of venues there. There's a gig on every single night, so we played pretty much, I'd say nearly like every venue now in Brighton, I would say.
They're closing down every other week, really. So
But in terms of building a fan base, like, I don't think we've ever sort of focused like, okay, like we're from Aylesbury, like we must have like a solid fan base in Aylesbury. We've sort of not pigeonholed ourselves into that. Like, we want to look at like the bigger picture and sort of be sort of a band that's not just an Aylesbury band. We're just a band that, if you're from Manchester or London or Bristol or wherever, you're going to like us, hopefully, if we come and play.
I think we found, like, usually sort of the internet is the best sort of way of us sort of spreading our music about, because there isn't necessarily a scene for what we do in terms of a bunch of bands that tour and make the sort of music we do. I think we touch on a few different genres where there are sort of scenes for that, but I think we don't always fit on the bill at gigs because we sort of cover a few different genres and do quite a lot of different things. There's a lot of like electronics involved and stuff like that, which you don't see so much of with the bands we play with. So I think it's just in terms of there being a scene and sort of touring and getting fans that way, we've always sort of viewed sort of putting stuff out on the internet as our way of doing that, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note too, I was gonna touch upon it after, but the music that you guys make and this idea of not being pigeonholed, a lot of the music you guys make, it's hard to, like, just multiple genres going on. And I like the idea that you said, you guys aren't from one specific place, and with the internet you could expand yourselves and things like that. Talk to me about the music that you make and like in this new kind of world with like a genre-less kind of thing. Talk about that aspect of your music.
I think it's I think in some senses it actually started a little bit from, we were saying earlier about when we wrote Shy Away in that room together, and like that was the moment when it like kind of clicked initially. And for me, like when we did that was us like not trying to be anything. It was just us individually playing what we wanted to play, and like kind of letting the influences drip through a little bit more subliminally. And I think, but through that process, like making Shy Away and it coming out the way it sounded, that's kind of what's led us on to this kind of leaning on all different genres. Because before that, we used to write a lot differently and we had different perspectives on what sort of music we should be writing. But as soon as we kind of like the shackles were off a little bit and just let those influences come through a little bit, like much more naturally, it's kind of led us to this sound now.
I think it's quite natural as well, because there's like having 5 people in the band, naturally everyone's kind of inspired by different things all the time, but then we kind of meet in the middle subconsciously. Like we all share interests in similar things in some points, and then it kind of creates this really cool end product where it's like a mixture of everyone's influences into one thing, which kind of makes it the whole thing unique in itself anyway, which is, I think, we're good at that. We're good at kind of honing in on what we like individually and then kind of making it together as a 5-piece.
I think going back as well to like the internet as well, like with the internet now, you've got Spotify 1 minute. I mean, I could be listening to like an 80s power ballad, the next like pop music, the next tune I could play like UK garage, like all of that then influences us. Like I when I listen to an album now, I don't just want to hear like the same sort of guitar band. Like I mean, I want to be in a band that makes music that I think like sounds fresh and modern. I think we all share that interest as well. We want whatever we're making, whatever sound it is, we want it to sound modern. We want it to sound new.
For sure. And with the new single, Radio Star, can you guys talk about that one? I know it just recently came out.
Yeah, I think so with Radio Star, we've just kind of set out to write like just an all-out pop song. I think we've always kind of been like unashamedly pop, but we've never gone so far down the line of it just being a pop song. And George basically had this kind of loop that he brought into practice, and it's only like a 20-second loop, but as soon as we heard that, we were like, yeah, that's a single. And we decided that before the song was even like fully written. And that was quite a fun process to actually like challenge ourselves with, because it makes you approach the writing completely differently to just writing a song and then deciding it's a single. But yeah, we thought that it had a lot of things in it for us. Like one reference we kind of had was like, it reminded us of kind of old like FIFA soundtracks, like sort of that we played when we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
And we were like, we can really hone in on that and like chase that. Like that's a really fun thing to do. and just approaching it in that kind of commercial way while still making something that's interesting and not just a run-of-the-mill pop song. So
I think. Sorry, Richie, mate.
No, yours. Yeah.
I think radio stars like us at our like kind of most focused in like in how we write our songs. That we were very kind of, we knew what we wanted to do, and every step of the way we kind of made sure that what we wanted to do was executed exactly how we wanted to do it. And we also left like leverage of like, even if it didn't turn out the way we thought it did, it was still, we kind of made the decisions to be like, we still want to roll with this, so we'll kind of let it organically do its thing. But yeah, I think it's a point in our kind of like releases that's like one of our strongest, definitely, which is cool.
And I know like eventually you guys will craft a debut project or a full-length project as a birthday card. Can you guys tell me what that would feel like to get a release like that? And on that note, with Radio Star, are you guys currently working on a full length? Tell me about how that process is going, especially with being in quarantine. I don't know how easy or hard it's been, just I guess communicating as a band and I guess working through things. Talk about that too.
I mean, we work in a way where like someone will come up with like either a little loop or like a minute and a half like idea as such. Might be like a verse, chorus, or just like a drum loop, or like Georgia come up with a cool like synth part. I mean, these guys usually come up with that, and then I usually find that I just write on top of that. My way of writing is like sit down with an acoustic guitar and just right away in that sense, where these guys are quite production heavy and write a lot on like Logic and Ableton and stuff. But I think these guys have been like on overdrive recently. I mean, George put in another idea today. Like the Google Drive's like full now of ideas. We had to get another one. Everyone's constantly writing, so I actually think it's made us almost more productive in a sense.
I think now gigs are out of the picture. I mean, no one's gigging, so all we really can do is write. So we've just been doing like so much of it. And writing more than ever, really, I think.
That's it.
Definitely. Yeah. But I think we've kind of had our heads in like singles at the moment, and that's something that we've been kind of doing for a while. So I think that's kind of where our heads are at the moment, is like single releases, but we are going to come on to a kind of fuller piece of work at some point soon, and our kind of heads are definitely moving into that space. So we were saying the other day, actually, this is like probably the moment in time where we felt the most ready to start pulling together a project like that, which just comes from, writing song after song, really, and just, I think in a way, like the way we've been forced to write because of lockdown has kind of been like the final piece of the puzzle for that. And now we kind of have everything we need to sort of start that. So it's gonna be really exciting to start putting that together once we get into that.
Sure. And usually when I come to like towards the end of interviews, I ask a band or an artist, how do you see the rest of the year going? But of course, with the lockdown, that question definitely gets tweaked now. So in terms of the rest of the year, if shows were to come back, or and you guys are releasing music, what's something you guys are collectively excited for? Is it releasing a full length? Is it just getting more songs out? Or are you guys all collectively excited just to perform again? Like, what's the something that you guys are looking forward to?
I mean, all of that really. Yeah. Like, if we're allowed to gig again, that'd be amazing. But I think the only thing that is in our control really is being able to still write and put out material. So we're just sort of planning and excited to do that, because that's something we know is in our control that we can do. But in terms of gigs, we have gigs booked, which we're really excited to be able to do. Obviously, it's very hard to predict that sort of thing. So, yeah, we're excited for all of it. Really, we always are. So.
I think just excited to get back in the room with everybody. Really. Piece together everything that we've done thus far. But I think it's great doing things the way we do them, and I think we've kind of we've realised another facet to like the whole writing process now is that we can do it like this, and I think that will perhaps when we have the liberty to meet up and get in a practice room or anything like that, we'll it kind of, the machine works a bit better. There's more to it. Yeah, just excited to get back in the room, really.
Okay, guys. It's been like an absolute pleasure to get you guys on. I do like the idea of you kind of saying like it's the radio star is like a pop song, and like there is kind of the idea of like if a song's too poppy or not. But I think the song is incredible. I think all of your releases that I've listened to so far are really great, and definitely if you guys ever come to Toronto, I'd love to catch you guys live when things go back to normal.
Definitely, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. Cheers.
Cheers for that. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for taking the time out for this conversation, and enjoy the rest of your day. And again, thanks for being on Studio One.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Later.
Later.